Okay, so that's. I'm gonna call this meeting to order. It's 7:03. Welcome. Has there been anybody in the room who's never been to a community council meeting anywhere? Okay, so your first community council meeting. And is there anybody in the room who's never been to a Spenard Community Council meeting? Okay, welcome. I'm not gonna put you on the spot. If during community announcements you'd like to say, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm here for XYZ. I live here, I run a business here. I just think Spenard's amazing, and I just wanted to see how you guys do things. You are welcome to do so. There's no pressure, but welcome. So welcome. I'd like to have the executive board introduce themselves. I'm Sarah Prescott. I'm the president until elections in March. If you are interested in maybe running for president, you can come ask me about it. It's actually super fun and rewarding. You get to write reports and put together agendas and stand at the front of the room and facilitate. Who would like to go next to the each Jen.
I'm Jeff Smith, the Vice President, Zoom chat monitors.
I appreciate that because I can't do this very well. Peggy, do you want to go next?
Peggy auditor.
Thank you.
Julie Leonard treasurer.
And she does excellent minutes. We run our meetings by Robert's rules to the best of my ability. I'm okay at Robert's rules. I am not a parliamentarian. If you are a parliamentarian and I'm doing it wrong, please feel free to correct me, especially if the meeting starts to get a wee bit spicy. That's when I go, okay, we're going full Robert's rules. Until then, it's a little bit casual, Robert. We have two sections for community announcements tonight because we had a bit of a light agenda. And originally when we went hybrid, we put community announcements at the beginning of the meeting. So that way, if the tech wasn't working, you had time to get here while we did community announcements and you can catch it in the notes or at the very end. The tech seems to be working, I think. So there was work us like maybe we put them back at the end after we warmed up. We're gonna do both this time because it was a light agenda. So if there's something you didn't say at the beginning and you're ready at the end, today is your day. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the June minutes. I had access to them, we found them. So June and October and the agenda of tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Second. Jen moves. Suzanne seconds. Any objection to approving the consent agenda, which is those 2 months minutes and tonight's agenda? Hearing none. The consent agenda passed. And we're ready for our first round of community announcements. Be brave. Yes, Jen.
2 events coming up in November. One is on the 21st, which is Dave, and it's a fundraiser for the Spenard Jazz Festival. It is, I'll tell you who it is, the Jean-Marie Quintet, and that's on Friday, November 21st. Not sure what time, probably 7, but check the Spenard Jazz Festival website. The other thing is the Anchorage Mandolin Orchestra is having a free holiday concert on Sunday, the 23rd, outside of the Spenard boundaries, the Anchorage Church, but that one's free. And it's at 4:30 on Sunday, the 23rd.
There's a whole mandolin orchestra.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I saw a hand over here. Yes.
Percent what you mean by that one I was really trying to get to. So I'm Elise Galvin and I represent Spenard, a little tiny bit of Turnagain, Midtown and Rogers Park in the state legislature. And I wanted to let you know that over on the table, there are debates for to let you know what I've been doing on your behalf in service to you. I don't tend to be on your desk very often, so I just thought it would be helpful if I just drop from there so that you had something. In particular, I wanted to highlight that I'm working hard to get to have conversations with you all where I can actually hear your ideas and then that will inform me in legislation that we're looking at this next year. And so I have 7 coffees coming up. 3 of them are very near here. So I just wanted to point that out. These sheets are right over here and feel free to pick them up. They are happening on the 15th and the 16th. The only other announcement that I think is important to say is I have been sending a lot of messages through social media around our frustration with SNAP and everything that's happening with food access. But then I gave an update saying everything's all cleared up. The governor's gonna pop in 5 million a week for the month of November and 10 million to through EBT cards. That's what people normally use for SNAP, and 10 million into the food bank. However, I just heard from the state health department that they are working very hard to get money through the EBT cards, but they have not successfully accomplished that yet. And so I just wanted to let you all know, I know last month, there was discussion around whether or not we want to focus on hunger. And given the current scenario, I think that this has become very critical for our state. And so I wanted you to know that this is something that's going to be deeply affecting many of your neighbors. Yeah.
Well, since she mentioned hunger, we are doing a food drive actually at the office, which is at the corner of Lowe Convention. It's a big cedar building. So if you're in the neighborhood and you want to drop some food to the food bank, it's 1900.
Where's the video?
What's that? It's at the corner of cedar building in Orange. Yeah.
They especially need protein, and anything that is protein, pull tabs is best right now for food bank, is what they've been asking for. So if it's a can, beans, anything related to protein, please buy the ones that are pull tab if possible.
Makes sense. Thank you.
I'm Becky Stedman, and I have a frame shop on, I don't even know if it's in these boundaries, but it's across from Alaska West. But also just interested in business on Spenard. But I'm also here as a volunteer for the Alaska Center for the Blind. And I'm just curious if anybody knows that they're off of Spenard, off of Weaver. Yeah, you do, cool. Are you familiar with the new mural we put up about a year and a half ago? Cool. If you haven't seen it, it's off of McRae, and so the thing, the blind is the only center for the blind in Alaska. And so I just wanted to say that, so I volunteered for that. And I live off Spenard as well.
Thank you, welcome. Else? Going once. All right, hearing no more announcements. We are ahead of schedule, but that is a good thing. So the member, Chris, are you ready for your?
Sure. I brought these and I was a little bit late, so you don't have to sure I'll do. So there's lots going on with the assembly and there's much for me to share, but I want to be thoughtful about my time. We're in the middle of budget season, so budget is on the top of our mind. So work we're doing. There are lots of things coming. There is going to be another attempt at a sales tax. We are anticipating a proposal from the mayor very soon. And so those things are going on, but I'm here because I was asked to come and talk a little bit about homelessness, crisis response. I serve as the chair of the Public Health and Safety Committee and the Housing and Homeless Committee. And so I brought this as a way to talk about some of the work that's happened over the last year. And I want to just first say that we've got a long way to go. And this is not meant to say that we solved anything or that huge accomplishments haven't been made. But I do think it's really helpful to know some of the work that's happened here. It's different from the previous year. So I wanted to just focus in 4 or 5 areas. One is shelter. I got on the assembly a little more than 6 years ago. And 6 years ago, the only role that the municipality had really in shelter is emergency winter shelter. So every winter, we would work to rise up shelter to make sure that there was a spot for it. It was unorganized, it was last minute, it was not great for many years. And so for the first time, in my understanding, we have now year-round shelter. And the main shelters, there are three in three areas. There's the 56 established shelter, which we've had for a while. That now is moved down to 100 beds, but can surge up to 50, so it can do a maximum of 150. It wasn't 200. This is in order to make sure that we're providing really quality services there. I think by lowering the numbers, that's going to help. We brought on a new shelter out on East Fifth Avenue, called Linda's Place, formerly Fantasies on Fifth, right? I toured it. It's actually a wonderful, the building can be well suited for a shelter. It really is. Because it's 3 levels. The top level is for women. And so there's separation. There's a really high quality kitchen that is there. There's some good services that are there. Linda's Place is also 100 that can surge up to 50. And then the Knowledge 2, which I'm sure everybody here is familiar. So those are going to be year round. And they can adjust based on need. And so this helps us to not only have year round staff, rather than hiring and firing folks every year. And I think we're going to find higher quality staff. We're going to find that the results are better. And we're already seeing them in terms of the number of people that are being transitioned into housing and treatment and so on. And then on the right side are our other MOA funded shelter partners, Brother Francis Shelter, Health Associates, and so on. And so that gives you a sense of shelter. And I would just say that the year-round shelter move is, I think, an important move, and it's stabilizing and increasing the sort of the quality of that. Going to be really important for our city. The second thing I want to talk about is crisis response. And many people have heard of probably the MCT, the Mobile Crisis Team, or the MIT, which is the police department. But we have these teams, and the Mobile Crisis Team was part of an effort to really get the right services to the right people at the right time, right? So people that are in a crisis, whether that's a behavioral health crisis, mental health crisis, don't necessarily always need a police officer, right? And so what we've seen already is the numbers of people that are being that we're going to and taking care of is reducing the number of calls to our police and allowing our police to really focus on it. The big shift over the last year, though, is that the MCT, the MIT, now a Hope team, and also the Safety Patrol, rather than working as separate units, are all working together and having a much more collaborative team effort. The other thing that has changed is that most of them were only responding to calls, and now they're out patrolling, so they can be constantly out on the street, talking to people, engaging with people, and then when a call comes, they can respond as well. So I think that crisis response system, it's still early, but we're going to see that become better and better and better. Another piece that I wanted to share is this up in the right-hand corner is the Anchorage Safety Center, which is the sleep-off center, if you're not familiar with where the jail is. That has shifted and that's grown a little bit in terms of the number of space there. What we've also done is added now case managers and other service providers that are there. So for folks during this winter that are freezing, can't get into a shelter, the police officers pick someone up, there's nowhere to take them. I went on a ride along last year, and we had someone in the back of the car for 2 hours because we couldn't find anywhere to take them. The safety center now is a place that they can drop them off. At least they're out of the cold, and there's some services there. Two more things real quick, and I'd love to have some questions. Treatment. I was saying for years, there's not enough treatment beds. And it's one of the biggest areas in our city that we really needed to recruit. That narrative has changed. We have a new treatment center that's opened up on the east side. We have another treatment center that's just got to open up downtown, the Econo Lodge. What's it called?
Clifton Road.
No, not Clifton Road. Hotel. Old Lion. Old Lion is coming on as an outpatient treatment. And the other thing that's happening is that South Central Foundation is soon to open up their stabilization center. And now Providence has come back and said they're in the stabilization center as well. So the number of beds, the number of opportunities for people to go into detox and go into treatment has significantly increased. And there's an effort to do even more of that. And then the last thing I want to talk about is abatement. And I want to say a few things on both sides. We as a city changed strategy. Last summer, I think many of you know that it felt like the strategy was keep people in place and provide services where folks are. And I think there was mixed reviews in terms of whether that worked or not. There was a theory that if you keep them in place, you provide services where they are, and transition from that camp to treatment or to shelter or to housing. That's changed, and we passed a new ordinance that allowed police officers to when somebody is camping in an unsafe area, they can move them along. And there is a new dashboard that just came up a few days ago. I can get you the address for it, but it's tracking that to-go ordinance. So how many people are they engaging with, and how many arrests have been made, and how many folks have complied, which means they the law. But what's happened is that we've disbanded most all of the large camps, and when they're starting to come home, we're going back. So a lot of the large camps in our city are no longer there. They've abated more than 30 camps at this point, and they are actively working to ensure that those camps don't get reestablished. The intention, I think, is that our police officers and our HOPE team and our MIT and MMC team are trying to get people to transition out of being on the streets and into somewhere else, whether that's a shelter, whether that's treatment. But there are folks that either don't want to or can't do that. And so the other part of that is folks are getting moved around a lot. And so we're, I think, in this space of trying to figure out how to make sure that folks are safe and as it gets colder, they don't die and they're taken care of, but at the same time, trying to address the real challenges out on campus. And so the abatement process has changed. I'm not sure whether it's the right approach or not. But we certainly have seen a lot of people go into shelter, but there's still a lot of folks out on the street. So that's like a quick update on that. Love any questions or the thoughts.
Any questions? Jamie.
Hi, Mr. President.
Hi, Jamie.
I saw him earlier today. So basically, I do outreach. I go to camps. I was almost to a point to food to people when I was outside. I still take food to people on the side even right now. And so I knew people in Northwood, I was taking food to them, and at a point after kind of got abated, that got disbanded. But I've seen this, I've lived this, and I understand it more than most. And unfortunately, the aspects of the current policy is where the decentralization strategy is. It means people don't get access to things, they don't get access to services because they're endlessly displaced and moving around. And it's an opposite sort of thing. The unfortunate reality of the situation is when you don't have enough shelter and you are not allowed to build shelter, the outcome is simply predictable, and people are going to suffer for it. Personally, in the next way. So I guess the question is this. I know we've discussed this at length, but I truly do believe that you need, or that the community as a whole, the assembly, needs to reevaluate and need to consider do they hire police officers to stabilize people and right into the ground, or do they hire some good people to try and stabilize them and work outcomes? Over the past 3 weeks, I've come across a woman that was outside in a boarding station, woman who did not get help for months. And I tried going through somebody, essentially police officers, some people not interact with police officers to get supportive services because they're afraid of it, they're traumatized. And I came across one recently with that too. But the question part is because there's not enough shelter and there are sooner beds, and we just saw the type of alarm victims they put into hotels, 655 of them. how can the community support the people that are outside the hundreds that will be outside if not more? So that they don't get into the bad state where they suffer health wise or worse. So that is my question.
Yeah, it's a complicated answer, but what I'll say is that, we need to do more. There are more people that are moving into shelter and housing today than there have been in a long time. And the folks that are not going to shelter, the folks that are not going to are a combination of it. You notice that there are a combination of folks that won't, don't feel like a team, live in shelter.
Or they're just never going to.
Yeah, and so we do what we can to take care of them, allow them to make sure that they have the things they need so they can survive. But they're not moving in shelter, not because they're not room, but because they don't want to, or they can't. There's another group who are moving in and out of shelter, going in shelter, out of shelter. So I will do to say this is that we it's not perfect what we're doing. And we need to do more. I think that the message is that I think we're addressing it in a way that we haven't been. And your advocacy for the folks who are looking outside is extremely important. I appreciate it because the last thing we want to do is not take care of somebody who's the side. And I'll just say this as well is that one of the real challenges is that the ordinance, which I know you have a strong feeling about, both is creating disruption, but it's also getting people to move into shelter, and it's also addressing folks that are criminals. And so we're having to vet out folks who don't fit into one category.
I think I'll say one last, and then I'll stop there, out of respect. First, I think policies are going to get people seriously getting killed. The reason why is because it's just what they are 2025 for us too. It says if you cannot afford, well, essentially it's limited all the public spaces practically. So if you cannot afford to pay rent and if you cannot afford to pay the mortgage, you're a de facto criminal. And then if you cannot charge by to say one where to cook food, then the outcome of that is predictable. So I think the other aspect of this is if you don't have a shelter, you have to provide places for people to go. There need to be some sort of sanctuary camps that discussion needs to get someone correct.
Thanks, Jim.
Right.
As a quick follow-up to that, I think Spenard does a really great job at trying to figure out how can we as a council assist as opposed to continue to harm. Like, this is a problem, why haven't we fixed it yet? So my question is, what can we do to assist in efforts to make sure that our neighbors who haven't been connected to services yet get connected, because maybe they haven't heard, maybe they just kept being away when somebody came through. And how do we get to that goal when everybody who wants housing has it, and who doesn't want housing has gotten sorted, I guess.
And I don't know if
Yes.
But I would just say continue to communicate with the municipality. Continue to reach out to there's on the sheet there's a number of phone numbers. But if you see, and I know what you're doing, if you see folks camping outside of this campus established, call and report it. So that because what happens is it really, and I know that there's varying views of it, really thoughtful, caring people go out and they check on them. And many of the police officers, the whole team in particular, are building good relationships with folks and trying to get them into somewhere safer than where they are. So I think the more that you communicate with people that you see, the things you see, tell us, let us know what you see. And that goes for people that look like they're crisis and things that look like crimes. And we have seen, and I was just talking to Chief Gates about this today, we've seen a real uptick in people reporting things. And that's given us a lot more information to be able to respond. And so the other challenge, and if Chief Gates was here, he would say this, is that we had a full academy this last round. We have another full academy coming. We're bringing community service officers on. So I think getting more people out on the street is really gonna make a difference for us. But this is a problem that's not gonna go away soon. It's gonna take a while, but I think we're on the right.
Thank you. Yes, Pat.
Not what you were talking about, my question, sorry. We had another person get killed at the corner of Northern Lights and Minnesota.
Yeah.
I know that there's pushback, people wanna drive fast there, but they're going straight between a freeway, through a neighborhood, through a bird sanctuary, past a junior high or middle school, and then into downtown. We, at some point, the amount of blood that's been spilled, we're just gonna have to lower the speed limit. That's what the majority of the people in this room want. Phil wants to go 100 miles an hour.
Let's not make it personal.
But like when we go to Juneau and talk with the state legislatures, they say that's up to the mayor and the city. And when we talk to the city, they say, oh, that's the DOT law. There's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, can
You
you?
have a guest in our presence that is, I'm gonna defer to him because, he's really an indulgent in this one, so we wanna share it with you.
Yeah, I'm Grant Downey. I work for the mayor advisor on housing and transportation, and I'm on the MATS policy committee, which does have some influence over the intake process. I think the answer is, legally speaking, the meeting can't recommend that the state change speed limit on a road. And then if they want to do something different than on the, they have to hold a public hearing into a study. So as part of we've actually, for the last year, had a Columbia Vision Zero working group with the state, and it's should probably the best the relationships that we've been between the state and the movement when it comes to our roads. That's DOT. It's not leading to the sort of immediate results that I think I wanted a year ago. We set a lot of really ambitious goals in our Vision Zero plan, and we haven't been able to achieve all. And we said when we set those goals that we were doing it to be ambitious on purpose, and we wanted to be held accountable for not achieving all of them. The fact that this year we're on track, not as many or more pedestrian deaths as we had last year, which was a record year, is incredibly upsetting and deeply upsetting. With roads, there's a lot, it's really hard to change roads. They're the path dependency, the physical structure of the road. I mean, Spenard Road, as you all know, has been designed for 5 years. We're looking at another 5 years before they actually go and touch construction. So changing the physical shape of the road, which is what the path will do, just takes a really long time. Changing speed limits downwards is not something the municipality or the state has ever done in Anchorage until very recently. We just changed the speed limit on Spenard Road, portions of it down to 25. The state changed the speed limit on Elmore. They're going to do a study for Tudor and Muldoon. We're going to be doing, as part of a federal grant, a comprehensive speed study of the whole municipality, which we hope will provide the technical basis for making more appropriate speed limits on our roads. And we need to back that up with design changes. We need better lighting. We need to have staff who are implementing all this. We're working on those things at once, but we're not making progress fast enough. People are dying, and that's awful. But we are trying and doing as much as we can.
I've got to have one more, and we're gonna.
Wait, but I just wanted to mention I echo everything you've heard from this. On the state side, I did just meet with a couple of DOT folks who took me through all of the project in Midtown and in Spenard, and also gave me a list of where the top 10 intersections where either major accidents or deaths occurred, and we have 3 of the top 10 in the state. And I got some interesting information. Some of it, all of what you said was true about lighting and designing the street. Interestingly, tinted windows seem to matter. And of course, use or abuse of alcohol or other mind altering drugs do make a difference. But when it came, so I said, well, what can I do? What is it that I can do as a legislator? And the one thing they mentioned is that the state law statutes have it that we cannot change or lower the speed limit lower than the average speed of current drivers. So that was an interesting thing that I think can be changed in statute. And then that would give you perhaps and others in DOT more leeway to alter the speed limit. So I just wanted to give you that, but that's something I'm having my staff zero in on. Because it's just unconscionable, that it feels like we're doing nothing because it takes so many years to actually get to change.
It's very helpful, thank you. Okay, now we're a wee bit behind schedule, but we have plenty of good order, but there are no further questions. Kelly Lessons is up next.
Great. Hi everyone, Kelly Levers. Principal was here 2 months ago and then off schedule and again. And since that, we started back to school season and we had checked been good. And I just want to, one of the privileges I have of being a board member is that in a place like this, I can really sing the praises of our administration, our bus drivers, our nurses, translators, all of the teachers, all of the people who have come together from Team ASD to help pitch into the Western Alaska relief efforts. And so I think I can speak for the rest. So I think only online. I think we're all very proud of that effort and appreciate all of the partners that we've had, the uni assembly in that journey. To that end, we have, my understanding, about 170 or so new students from Western Alaska enrolled in ASD schools at this point. They are by and large clustered at the high school level at Betty Davis East High School, Wendler Middle School, and College Gate Elementary School. And really, there are targeted supports that are either already there or being layered on. And so, our principals, our teachers have just done an amazing job. I'm also under the understanding that some of their teachers have followed them. The teachers have to stay technically employed by their home district. They're not becoming ESV teachers. So luckily their lawyers are the same as our lawyers. So they figured it out. There's just a lot of great teamwork and Jada as well. And speaking of teamwork, we might get some snow tomorrow, which is a good reminder that Team ASD is going to be out driving tricky neighborhoods. And then just throughout the winter, the plan is to have alerts go out to the news media, on social media, to families by 5:30 in the morning if there are delays or cancellations. And speaking of driving, they're full of kiddos waiting for buses. Transport more than 20,000 students in our buses every day, which is an impressive feat. So just heads up if winter arrives. Been busy. As I think I indicated 2 months ago when I said, right, so I think we're really in the thick of that right now. The administration has proposed 2 schools be closed and their students move to sort of adjacent facilities. Those are Fire Lake Elementary School up in the river area, and those students would go to Birchwood, Juliet, and Eagle River Elementary Schools, sort of depending on where they live. Students who are currently at Lake Otis Elementary School, by and large, would go to their the closest elementary school to them, College Gate, Airport Heights, Castoon, Rogers Park, and Tudor. As part of this right sizing approach this year, the administration is also proposing that we work on some boundaries related to Romeg Middle School and West High School, because those are really quite over, Romeg especially is over capacity at 120 recipients. So there are a pocket of students in middle school who are currently zoned for roaming or would be zoned for roaming, who would either go to Wendler or to Handshoe, again, depending on where they are. They don't really follow their peers from elementary school, but part of it is like, oh, let's have a K-12 experience where you can stay with your friends. And similarly, in that same sort of pocket, students who are of high school age, who are currently zoned to West, would either go to Betty Davis East High School or Service High School. The transportation improvements from the state around 76 now create a new corridor for buses to go sort of to the Hampshire service area, and it's a shorter than commute from students' homes to their schools. And then as part of this package, the administration has been talking to the municipality and childcare providers all around Cambridge. Because we can use some of our facility space, especially become landlords, maybe it's not a great word, but we can offer that space to childcare providers to increase childcare capacity to help get folks back to work. So I think there are a lot of balls in the air. And then as part of this, it has been proposed that Real Good German Charter School, Real Good Book School, would move into Lake Otis Elementary School, and the Eagle Academy Charter School would move into Firelift. So there are a lot of moving pieces. The board will talk about it at an upcoming meeting in November, on November 18th, which sounds like a busy day at the assembly as well. So really banner day for local government, and kitchen poison. But certainly it's a long meeting last night. We are getting a lot of input, public input is welcome and appreciated. Speaking of public input, as we look ahead, I feel like I'm being around tonight, looking ahead to Saturday, December 6th, there's going to be a workshop from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Bartlett High School, designed to elicit community feedback on our budget for the 26-27 school year. So we are backwards planning from needing to pass a balanced budget in February for next school year, which may be before the legislature figures out which ends up. But I'll cross my fingers and look pretty less. But unfortunately, despite the historic overrunning of governor's veto and the change in statute in how schools are funded, we got a historic $700 per pupil increase what we call the base student allocation for this current school year. It was really a $20 increase from the one-time funds we had received the year before. So it was less than a 1.3% increase. We still have a big gap of over $1,400 in order to get us back to the purchasing power we had in the 2010-2011 school year. School board then? Okay, we can't run this on with the school board. And so that gap's really grown because inflation is real, and the getting us back to the December 6th conversation, the administration is projecting a $77 million deficit for the upcoming school year. And so we're using a tool, again, called Balancing Acts from a company called Polco. We did it last year. It was our first time. I think we got great feedback. It was a good experience. We're doing it again, a little more granular, but basically you can actually do it right now if you want it, but there are people on hand at this workshop, board members, administrators, talk folks through it. The goal is you have revenue, which we believe we have based on enrollment projections and what we think we're going to receive from the state based on statute. And then you can toggle class sizes, how much you want to invest in, teacher, bonuses, or salary increases, healthcare costs, preschool, maintenance, vehicle operations. I mean, all of the things. Whenever I go into a school, every light bulb costs something, right? And so how are we willing and able and interested to balance this $77 million deficit? And so we are looking for your feedback. And what's really cool about this tool is that it'll take Cameron's input and we won't know tours, and we'll take Brown's input and Representative Galvin, and it will say, okay, we have 2,000 people. Here's how, some of them are balanced. So here are the general trends that we're seeing. But, we know that people place small class sizes. So the question is, what are we willing to give up in order, are we going to be cutting sports again? Cutting English language services? How do we make that work? And so that's why we're looking to do community for feedback. So December 6th at Bartlett for a couple of hours in the middle of the day. Or you can go anytime, the comfort of your home. We did it today. If you go to asdk12.org, it's our website, /F as in fiscal year 27. You can learn a little bit more about sort of the lay of the land, and I believe there's a link there now for this balancing act tool, but it'll be a workshop and so interactive.
We are at 10 minutes.
What's that?
We're at 10 minutes.
Oh, and that's how.
We have to have, if someone has a question. Do you want to do that?
I'm surprised you have school closures with, I feel so bad for the typhoon victims, but you said we have an extra 160 people there, but it sounds like there's only one school closure in Anchorage. Most of them are in Eagle River and outside.
Well, there's one being proposed in the Eagle River area, and one is being proposed in the Anchorage Bowl.
Oh, good.
Yes. And that's really a reflection of a lot of building that took place 20 to 30 years ago. And within the last 7 to 10 years, we've lost, 6,000 or 7,000 students. It kind of depends on when you start looking. So we do have excess capacity for things like childcare. And it's a challenge because every one of those schools is filled with kids who have meaningful relationships with their teachers and their peers. But we need to also figure out how to deliver services effectively and efficiently. So this is not an easy conversation, which is why I've done a lot of actually community members last night. It's not difficult for one. Yeah.
So I would you say that Romig is over capacity? My understanding is the, highly gifted program or whatever is out there. I guess my hope is that the district would be, making sure that there's space at that school for neighborhood kids and not having longer commutes than necessary versus the children that are often coming from as far away as like Juliac or Birdwood to attend that school. I guess I'm curious how that's being weighed.
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's truly a small pocket of kids. I don't have the stuff in front of me. Who are, if you go to talk to elementary school right now, talk with a very long zone, it's really in the heart of sort of the southern central portion of Anchorage. And I think it's a pocket of kids at the northern end of the talk to zone that are currently engaged in a longer commute to Romig than they would be thanks to sort of semi-construction here to Wendler or to Hampshire. And they would stay with their peers from Rockview, go to those schools. So it's not a perfect scenario. Students who are currently at Roman or West will have the option to continue that trajectory, but I believe busing will not be provided to those new schools next year because the busing will go to Wendler but also this has to pass the vote on it. But that's what the proposal is.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Lieutenant Hughes, you're here, field report. Welcome. Cool.
Not simply everybody else, please. So, good evening, name's Brian Beats, I'm Crime Suppression Lieutenant in the Police Department. Good to be here again. I was here last month, so we're doing a couple of cool things in the Anchorage Police Department right now as we balance resources. So I'd like to talk about resources, and we can talk a little bit more about that. The good news about resources is we're about 42 officers short right now from 65, so that number is getting smaller. We have a full academy right now. We have a academy right around 28 officers that are going through the academy process right now, and we are actively recruiting for the next academy that is looking to be, that's probably going to be a full academy as well, which is positive for everyone. We like to get those numbers back up to where they should be. It's always an operational burden for us to try to balance, life and all the needs of the community and keep everything afloat. But we think we're doing a pretty good job at it so far. We've got some really cool technology things going on right now as far as Town Square Park. We look like we're probably going to close on the technology connectivity issue. We had some connectivity issues with our camera systems that we deployed in the Town Square Park. Looks like that's going to be coming to close by the end of the week. This week we could go live on some of those cameras, which is the first we've ever done in the city. So those will be cameras that will be in our real-time crime center that is about 50% operational right now. We do staff it with an officer, but we do have limited capability, but it's a broad range of technical capabilities that we have. The deploying kind of, as we receive the technology, I think I talked about it last time, the assembly approved a budget for us to purchase a pretty hefty technology package. Technology in our line of work right now is really kind of universally starting to offset some of the resource challenges that police departments face across the country. And it's really helpful for us to utilize and deploy this technology effectively. And it's really impactful on public safety in all the way from traffic to felony activity. We have the CSOs are out working. You'll probably see them in the Spenard area walking around. They're commonly referred to as traffic cones because they have bright jackets that they wear. It says CSO on the back. They should be coming to some of the local businesses and checking in and saying hello, and doing their walks to the area. Right now, they're really focused on the downtown corridor, and we're actually going to be looking at deploying them to Spenard, into Midtown, and to some other communities so that they get to know some of the folks out there that own businesses. That's been one of the chief's prime initiatives, and we're starting to work that out, looking at hiring additional CSOs, community service officers down the road. The mayor is 100% supportive of that. And a CSO is not a law enforcement officer, but they wear a badge. It's a way that we can integrate a non-police officer employee into our operations process. They work with the impact team, they work with the home team. So they're really out there engaging in the public, and we've gotten a lot of really good public feedback from that. They've been in the downtown area, so helped get that out of the other communities with that capacity. So we're doing some new things that I think you'll see in the next couple of months. That'll be exciting, and I'll be happy to share that later on. But open any questions. It's always good to get questions from the group. Yes, sir.
Those officers that are coming in, what divisions are they going into, and would you be able to provide numbers on current staffing levels of the different divisions? I think the last thing that I heard about the traffic division, there was 6, I want to say, patrol officers in the entire Anchorage area.
Yeah, so how to staff the department is kind of based off of one key factor, and that's the patrol division. So patrol division is our most important division because it's the officers that are out on the streets on a day-to-day basis that are going calls for service that you all call in. So if you have a theft or an assault or something like that, you call 311 or 911. Those patrol units are the ones that are going to be responding to that call for service. So providing that 911, that emergency response is our primary focus and our primary concern. And so that those numbers are teetering right where we don't want to go any lower with them. So all the priority will go to patrol. So as people come out of the academy, they graduate from the FTO program, they go into the patrol program. And once we feel the patrol program or the patrol division is staffed appropriately, again, to respond to an emergency call for service on a daily basis, then we look at, other units. So for example, I'm in the crime suppression division, which is not a patrol division, and my officers came from patrol, right? But my units are drastically decreased numbers wise. So I'm authorized 12 in impact, I have 2. I'm sorry, I have 3. And so so as those patrol numbers grow, right, that's when we can start posting and pulling out and supporting some of those other units like traffic, which I don't have all the numbers out there. Traffic is right around 6. IDEU, which is our DUI unit, they're right around 5 or 6 as well, which is not totally offsetting of where they normally are. But SWAT and detectives and all those units pull from patrol, and we have the staffing to support it. Here.
Okay, I saw Matt, then Megan, then me.
Cool. Hey, hello, thank you for coming to our meeting. So we have a couple of 3 that I can think of physical structures in Spenard that are magnets for crime. We have the children's park that runs parallel to Minnesota, and it's so loud from the noise and from the cars and the pollution. It's an incredibly unpleasant place to be, and no one sends their kids there, so it becomes a congregating park for people who are using drugs and leaving their needles there, which makes the park even less appealing as a place to send children. And then we have 2 wooden overpasses that go over Benson and Northern Lights at Lois. And those are, well, for polite people, they're impassable because there's frequently vomit, syringes, garbage, drug paraphernalia, and other trash up there. So it's an incredibly unpleasant place. Is there something that you can do to get the municipality or the state to remove those things from our neighborhood because they don't attract anything good?
So that's a little bit of put my pay grade. But I'm sure Graham can bring some of that back to the mayor's office. I don't disagree with you. One of the mitigating factors that we will deploy as a public safety tool is to change some of those things. So for example, if we have an area that's congregated by folks that seems to be a criminal element or an element that is becoming kind of unruly in the neighborhood. One of the techniques we can use is make that an uncomfortable situation for people to congregate in that area. If that whatever that item is drawing them to that area. So we do know about Minnesota Park. We have been giving a lot of attention to Minnesota Park over the last 2 to 3 months. We've made multiple arrests in Minnesota Park for things like drugs, and assaults, DV assaults and things of that nature. So we do spend time in Minnesota Park. It's actually a priority for all 3 shifts, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. And when the officers have the ability to go, when the plus side officers have the ability to go to those parks and to patrol them, they absolutely are doing that, and that is what the chief has told them that they are going to do. As far as long term, that's a great conversation for the community council to bring up with the mayor's office, and that space can be utilized in another way. That's great. One of the best ways to deter criminal activity in a community, especially in a space like that, is to activate it, is to bring attention to it and get people in that space, kids, like you're saying, and I understand that that's a little bit more of a challenge in some of these situations. But that's what our goal is to clean up spaces and then to activate those spaces so that people understand that it's the community space, right? And it's not just for specific people that are engaged in some sort of nefarious activity, but it's for all to enjoy and to especially for our loved ones. That's what they're there for.
And all 3 of those examples are in state DOT right of way, so not to emphasize your point you made earlier, but we'll talk to them about it.
So I'm glad that we have somebody from the mayor's office and the assembly person, and thank you for coming tonight. My question is, and it sounds like right now the traffic patrol division is kind of small, but one of the problems as you came in as one of our members brought up about the death toll that is happening in Spenard with pedestrians. And part of the problem is I wish that there was a way to start ticketing these people with dark windows, because when you're crossing the street, you like to be able to see that they see you. And right now, I know there's a law for that, for these overly dark windows, and they need to be ticketed because it really is disadvantageous to pedestrians. The other thing is the way that people are driving, and it's not like this in other parts of the country, because I've been in states where people actually stop at the pedestrian crosswalks, because part of the problem is everybody acts like they're coming off a freeway and they cross over the crosswalk. They don't even look to see that there might be a person about to step off the pedestrian stepping into that crosswalk. They're always looking the other direction. And I've been to other parts of the country where they started ticketing so much. Like if you go to Portland, those people stop right there. They have been trained that they stop so that the pedestrians are safe. And I think that this is something that this administration and the police department, the traffic planners need to start making it safer, as has been pointed out. It is so dangerous, and we're going into the darkest part of the year. And already pedestrians have to be so cautious. And my husband saw today where somebody drove up onto the sidewalk where 2 people were waiting for the bus so that they can do a U-turn. This is the kind of driving that we're seeing, and this is why it's so dangerous. So, I think that if word gets out that the police are actively ticketing people for the dark windows and for going over pedestrian crosswalks and not looking when people are crossing, people would start getting the message. But
it's been so lackadaisical for so long that it really is a jungle out there for pedestrians.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about, you're absolutely right that it is a violation to have tinted windows past a certain degree. I believe it's 75 light penetration in the front and 45 in the back. I might be off on that. It's been a minute since I've purchased a ticket. Because I just don't do that anymore. Sometimes I do. So I think it's important that you understand, so traffic enforcement is a very, a very interesting conversation to have. Traffic enforcement is something that's generally done by the patrol element at large. And so they are the ones that are out there making traffic stops, enforcing traffic laws. The traffic unit does do some of those things. They tend to focus on the more egregious offenders. So think of the Glen and the Seward Highway. Those traffic corridors are kind of where we target. So getting people driving in excess of 100 miles an hour sometimes, things of that nature. So getting those really highly risky behaviors under control. But we do have patrol officers in the area. And so we are making those stops. We are citing when it's appropriate. There is a very unique discussion when it comes to the police department and doing traffic enforcement. Some hate it. They don't want us doing traffic enforcement because they think we should be doing something else in the community, and some really want us to do it. Our stance is that our officers should do it, and they should do it as often as they can when they're available to do so. It comes down to a little bit of a resource constraint. When I have a certain amount of officers on the street, the priority for those officers are going to be responding for calls for service. And then when they don't have calls for service to respond to, which is generally not very often, then they get traffic enforcement. So it's not that we're not giving it a priority, and it's not that it isn't a priority for us. It absolutely is. It's just that having the ability to have officers to have the time between taking high level calls for service, high priority calls for service, and then squeezing that in some traffic work is sometimes challenging.
Well, I don't, if I can say, we had 184 citations for tinted windows so far this year. We had 1,113 citations last year. So generally, we do have 1,000 citations a year for tinted windows.
We'll do about details. We'll get some grant funding, federal grant funding for traffic safety stuff, and they'll do details specifically targeting areas like you're talking about. So it's great to give us that feedback if there's a particular area. Generally, it's speeding. People will say, well, people are speeding in this area. So we'll put a little bit, we'll get some federal funding for some traffic safety, and then we'll put some officers out there running radar so that we can change that behavior.
And from a policy perspective, I would just say we've been exploring this quite a bit. It's really challenging because people are installing those window tinting and people are installing those exhausts, right? And so what they're not doing is saying as soon as you drive off a lot, it's illegal, but it's not illegal to install. And so it's a real challenging policy issue to figure out how to de-incentivize businesses to say you're doing something that once they leave your lot is illegal. And anyway, so that's something that we're continue to explore.
And that's a great point, sir, because the first thing that happens when you pull somebody over is they'll say, the dealer did it for me, right? How could this be illegal, right? They put it on for the dealer when I bought the car, or when I went to the muffler guy, because having a modified exhaust system is absolutely not okay. So we'll work through those things and we'll partner with the assembly and make sure that we try to find.
I'm gonna reach out later on my question, but we have talked to this last question. It's now like 10 minutes behind.
I have a quick comment and a question. So, I share your frustrations with that. I used to attend North council meetings when I lived over that area of town. I've had small conversations with assembly members, Martinez and former assembly about that, and maybe actually with the Northeast Community Council or other officers. I've also called several times and spoken to, I think, the lieutenant over the traffic division about these very issues and what can be done. And the idea that I came up with, I guess, that lieutenant supported was taking video. I've got dash cams from rear and inside my car and sending those into AD. So anytime that I have witnessed something that I find egregious, people doing 100 miles an hour and a 65, blowing through stoplights, which happens so frequently. I check that video. I find their driver's plate and send it into APD.
As long as we have a plate and a clear view, I mean, if you have a plate, we can investigate the vehicle. It's challenging to cite those individuals because we have to know who is actually driving the vehicle. But we can always go in and say, hey, like, we're the police and we got a complaint with this vehicle, here's the picture of it, right? Going 100 miles an hour, whatever, right? And here's the license plate, it was doing this behavior. A lot of times it's like, oh, that's my little Johnny's car. Well, can we talk to little Johnny? We can't issue a citation because we don't have enough, but sometimes the talking to alone is enough to change that behavior. So thank you.
Well, and so that's actually sort of my question is what is actually the effectiveness of that? I just reported one, I think 2 days ago for somebody on Minnesota at Diamond deciding to cross over the solid white lines. They could get all the way over to the left-hand lane and overtake 3 cars in front of them that were trying to merge onto the highway in front of them. Got back an email saying that should be a ready report and not a suspicious behavior.
Yeah, so
Previously told us.
So the ready report is basically a suspicious driver that could potentially be impaired by a substance. And we want those calls immediately so that we can just try to get a unit over there to actually make a stop on the vehicle, ensure that person's not impaired. That would be very challenging for us to give them a citation or even chase it down. So, because the facts are is that we have limited resources right now. And so we have to kind of balance out is the juice worth the squeeze, if you will, on some of these reports. But continue to do it. I think it's appropriate. Send them to us and we will do everything we can to try to chase each one of them down.
The other sort of half of that question, sorry, to make it quick, is what about video that I don't have plates of? Because I see people blowing through stop signs, red lights constantly.
Yeah.
I've seen them blowing through a red light where the other side already has a green light. Let's enter the intersection and they just don't care, just blowing through it.
Yeah.
I don't have a plate. I can't report that. It's really individual. I could certainly send all that in and show that there is a problem here.
Well, so you don't have to convince the police of that. But the problem is that we can't do anything with that video, so it wouldn't go anywhere, and that's just the truth. But we are aware that there's challenges, and technology is a very hot thing to kind of debated topic on some of the traffic life type of stuff. Where our stance right now is that we're not going to use technology to enforce citations, but that's something that obviously that maybe down the road if the community needs it, they would take it out actually. That's a yes, and then sure, exactly. Yeah. But we just from us. Yeah. Cool.
Cool. I have so many ideas from time. I don't know how you been that week. Thank you so much. All right. Thanks for taking the time tonight. Yes. I'm sorry.
Meeting.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
See you. Bye-bye.
Okay, next up is my report. It's gonna be super quick because you guys didn't come to listen to me. But 2 things I wanted to make sure we covered. Last month we had that delightful thing at the end where we all talked about what we loved and what we approved about Spenard and who can help us do it. And the top thing I heard was Tisdo. And then I got lots of emails about Tisdo. And before the meeting, people were asking me about Tisdo. I heard you. It is not on tonight's agenda. It is on December's, I promise. And Graham will talk a little bit more about why after we hear about Mission Creek. TISDO is the Transportation Supportive Development Overlay. Transit Supportive. Yes, thank you. Overlay. We will hear about it, but I was persuaded with some back and forth that tonight it is better to hear about the mayor's upcoming proposal about the sales tax. So the opportunities for public comment before TISDO goes back to the road for more public comment. So we will have our questions. And in December, we'll hear all about TISDO. And tonight we'll hear about the sales tax. So I just wanted to make sure that got addressed. I didn't forget. It's on December's agenda in pen. I think the thing I wanted to mention was our neighborhood win for this month. A few executive board members went out and cleaned up a bunch of trash that was it appeared to be an abandoned camp as opposed to an invaded camp. Went out, spent a couple of hours, cleaned it up. Because it's on a trail, we can't just drive our cars up to the trail, so we couldn't haul it out. It got hauled out. So tomorrow on our website in this report, I will link the pictures because it looks great. It's a green space again that doesn't have wet foam and buckets of things. So that was our win, so shout out. Various plastic containers, it was fun, it was very fun. I've also been talking to, the Parks Department. We're in the preliminary stages of figuring out how they can support us if we want to do, say, a quarterly park or trail cleanup. So it sounds like they're on board with that, and then we just have to iron out some logistics, but the latest email was at like lunchtime today, so hopefully next month I'll have some more. I didn't think we were all in a huge rush as we run into the holidays and it starts to snow, but hopefully I do have more for you next month on that fun project. I will have this report up on our website tomorrow, but I finished it at 6:12. So we'll have that tomorrow. Next up is Shauna with our Cowden Fish Creek go.
So fun. I unfortunately was sick at my several times, so I did reach out to a lot of people just asking for feedback or ideas for next year. I wanted to get a gauge on candy there. So if anybody would like to give me feedback, I would super love to hear it. My card's over there. And next year, if you've never heard of this, or you live on the trail, or you don't, whatever, if you want to hang out next year, almost every single person, said how much fun they had. They're gonna, want to be doing this next year. Potatoes and carrots were a huge hit. So yeah, it's just a bunch of Spenard weirdos, and we'd love to have you next year. So I think it's sweet. Matt, Margaret, anything with that?
Oh, it was absolutely wonderful. I watched an adult eat a raw potato.
Was it all you?
That.
House, carrots and potatoes.
Yeah, so it's a shame we didn't get out a chance to walk.
Yeah.
We were a shiver of sharks representing the Burbank Park. Cause that makes perfect sense if you think about it. And so because there was three of us in our booth, we were able to leave and walk the trail. We walked up and saw the three little pigs where they had a wolf chasing children. It was this loud, uproarious, festive event. We went down and we saw Duke Russell and Pillow were making grilled cheese sandwiches and giving out hot soup. And every time they ran out of something, they would start making something different. It was amazing. Every booth was amazing. And if you didn't make it down to be a part of it, they're putting on your schedule for next year. There was a guy not a part of the trail, just near the trail, that was handing out cold beers and hot dogs. It was all that.
So do.
Well, yes, I was just gonna say, it was so much fun. I brought a bunch of people who had never been before and they were just totally jazzed on it. Bacon is always amazing, so thank you. And my daughter loved your carrot, so thank you, Elise. One thing I was gonna ask is if you've ever considered shifting it an hour later to like 5 to 7, because the 4 o'clock with kids, it was hard to make, and I feel like by the end, we're like finishing up around 6:15, people are like cleaning up, and I don't know, anyways, just food for thought.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, and somebody else mentioned that too, so we'll circle back on that idea for sure. Thank you.
It was super fun, thank you.
I just want to say all three of you, give a shout out to Ames Park Foundation for help happened with publicity and with the photographer, and like Anchorage, who did like a crosswalk there right there with the meeting and the across the bay. And who Inverse also helped with things, so they're eventually important partners to help make it happen for us every year, and so.
The last villager you had. We asked them for 3 volunteers to help pass out candy. They sent 60 people to the trail.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was such a
Sweet. And if anybody has any photos that they're willing to share, so we can put them on the Spenard website.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. I love that answer. So if you want to send them to Spenard CC, once you would be okay. Sure.
Okay.
I mean, right? Sure. I can't promise all of them will go on the website because I don't know the website's capacity, but yeah.
But if you wanna pay dues, they're voluntary as a member. It can be bought candy every year, or it's fire, but we spend a little bit of money on Fish Street every year. So
It's a big thing. And the pictures are so cute, I've never been, but the pictures are so cute, so. Okay. I think it's yes, it's the sales tax proposal.
It's great.
You have the floor. If you're looking in your direction, this is Graham Downey from the mayor's office. It's going to talk about the mayor's proposed sales tax.
Yeah, would you want me to talk briefly about the disco?
No, that's at the very end.
Okay.
Because tonight's sales tax, and then you can give a teaser for what we should know for next month, so we can go prepared.
Yeah, and also what Kelly said about the welcoming our neighbors from Western Alaska. I mean, you're in the building of some of them. You all in Spenard have been so welcoming to our neighbors. But just thank you all for support of our neighbors in this town. So really appreciate it. Sarah reached out immediately and was like, "Oh, we help," and I imagine lots of people just thought, so thank you. So sales tax, you all may have followed last year, there was a proposal called Project Anchorage. That had like 17 different versions of the assembly and ultimately did not get forward to the voters. Over the last year, the mayor's office, we've been thinking about that proposal, thinking about what we liked, what parts of it we didn't like, thinking about what the community liked and the community didn't like. And I've come up now with a new version of that proposal. Has a lot of the same bones, but we hope fixes some of the significant problems while still emphasizing the important parts. And I think to zoom out slightly, the reason we're having this conversation is that the muni is broken. We are incredibly reliant on property taxes. Even though we have some of the lowest tax rates of any major city in the country, we have some of the highest property tax rates because it's our only source of revenue. So it sort of puts us in this funny position where people are really angry about how high their property taxes are, but our overall revenue is actually very low. A sales tax is a pretty key way of diversifying revenue at a municipality. Last year's proposal had 2% of the sales tax, so 2 of the 3% would have gone to property tax relief. And there was a lot of concern in the community that that was going to make the tax pretty regressive, that it would benefit property owners at the expense of lower income shoppers. So we think that it's still important to be diversifying revenue. So in the mayor's proposal, 1/3, one of the 3 sets would be for property tax relief. But in addition to that, there's going to be a number of exemptions for basic goods, necessities, things like diapers, medicine, basic services, a lot of things that sort of everyday residents need as part of their daily lives are going to be exempted from the sales tax. And then the other 2/3 of the sales tax go towards things that benefit all Anchorage residents. And like most of government, provide a disproportionate benefit to low income people. So we're hoping that by reducing the amount of benefit that goes to property tax owners and increasing the amount of benefits that go to everyone, we're sort of helping to make a proposal. So it's a 3-cent sales tax, just like it was last year. That first cent goes to property tax relief. The second cent is focused on public safety and what I might call basic maintenance, like road maintenance, facilities maintenance, parks maintenance, sort of the deferred maintenance we've been accumulating over the last 20, 30 years, where things are starting to fall apart and we haven't been doing the routine basic maintenance. So we need a little bit of funding to catch up on our roads and our parks. And we need police officers and firefighters and community service officers in order to help keep our community safe. So that's the second bucket. And then the third bucket is how can we make Anchorage a great place? How can we make Anchorage a great place for everyone? How can we make Anchorage more affordable and more attractive for folks? And the 2 big ideas that come out of that are housing and childcare. You can't, if you're a parent and you don't have childcare, it's really hard work. It's really hard to participate in the economy if you don't have access to childcare. And childcare facilities in Anchorage have been closing at a really rapid clip. So we need to figure out how to support the childcare in Anchorage. And as you all know, probably better than I do, housing rent is too damn high. Right? There's not enough housing, and it's the like Woody Allen joke about the food's real bad, not enough of it. Our housing is in poor condition and it's expensive, and so we need to we're doing everything we can on the regulatory side to make it easier to build housing, but we probably also need to choose that with some targeted investments in maybe a revolving loan fund for affordable housing, investments in utility infrastructure to help bring the cost of housing down, and other strategies sort of help jumpstart affordable and accessible housing construction. So that's the essence of the sales tax proposal, 1% property tax, 1% maintenance and public safety, and 1% housing and childcare. And I'm happy to talk more in depth about any of that.
Sounds like I see Susanna and then Matt and then Representative Galli.
So questions
Yeah.
first, is everyday low, are you gonna tax food?
No, groceries will be exempted.
Groceries be exempt,
Yeah.
just got a lot more support for me.
Great.
Second, on the housing, last year, we were talking about a bunch of strategies. And one of those was at least looking at Airbnbs, or, I don't know, there's opportunity there with extra bed tax and this idea that maybe everybody gets first before there's seconds and thirds and fifths. So are you looking at any guardrails or some benefit to the people who can't get housing because of the Airbnb industry?
Like in terms of how we're using that, if we're setting up council fund, like making sure that it's not used for short
Like
term.
a tax
Yeah,
specifically in a fund for housing, and also maybe, because that would benefit everybody.
yes.
And
So-
it's, and there's a bunch of these. In Spenard, I looked at Airbnb to get myself a place when you come to visit.
Yeah.
But then it also made me very mindful of how many people I have at the shelter. I would love to have access to some of those lower price units that are off the market now for Airbnb. So looking for some guardrail update. I know you were considering it, so where are we at?
So yeah, so the assembly is considering 2 ordinances on short-term rentals presently. One is a registration ordinance, because the current registration system is done with the tax code. For various reasons, it's unconstitutional. Airbnb is rightly threatening service, unfortunately. So we need to update the registration ordinance so we figure out where the Airbnbs are, how much they're charging, so they get some basic question. And then members Constant and Voland have introduced a special tax on short-term rentals. Sort of exactly to fund a housing fund or something like that. Yeah, I think the term would be politically, that tax would raise about $5 million a year. The sales tax would be about $180 million a year.
Yeah.
So you just wouldn't want to put 2 taxes in front of the voters and have them approve the $5 million tax and vote against the $180 million revenue source. So I think that's probably something we'll be seeing it from as well. The Constant might be willing to introduce that next year. So that we don't overlook ballots. Yeah.
All approvals.
Great.
And then I got Matt and Representative Galli.
Agreed with that the short-term rentals are destroying our city. So first, I'm not going to support anything that gives tax relief for the property tax. Our property taxes are not that high in comparison to other places in the country. That's just it's just made up. There are places that it's lower, there are places that it's higher.
Yeah.
So taxing poor people to give tax breaks to landlords, I'll never support that. Where I work in the military, everybody lives in Wasilla and Eagle River, and they all own homes in Anchorage that they rent, and they charge usurious rates. They absolutely do not, they're slumlords, and they're paid by the federal government. They don't even live in our town, and they're the problem. I have no idea to address that.
Yeah, we did some analysis, or Jake Iser at the university did some analysis, and 15% of property taxes are paid by, well, now I want to be careful because you're saying in-state people, but who don't live in Anchorage. I think the number is out of state. So 15% of property taxes are paid by out of state organizations or corporations or individuals. So, and then some very preliminary, don't quote me on this because it's only the first round of data from our finance department, that 47% of the sales tax would be paid by out of town residents. So that would be folks coming in from the valley, that would be tourists, that would be seasonal workers, etc. So that I think what on balance, sales tax versus property tax means we have more out of town people paying their share for municipal services they're taking advantage of. And I hear you on the property tax piece. I think there's a little bit of just political reality here. If we want it to pass the Anchorage voters, we probably need a percent of property tax reduction. So if you support more revenue for government, then it might be just a compromise, you have to make a decision about for yourself, but yeah, totally heard.
Oh, and then I had Representative Gavin, and then, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to praise the administration for having the hard talk. It's just incredible how peaceful students talk. And I really appreciate that. And then my comment is if you could share with us, give us perspective about what the tax is, sales tax in Ketchikan, in Bethel, in Matsu, just so that we have an understanding of what other Alaskans are experiencing and how they're using those taxes.
Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know 100% what I'm using part, but I do know 92 communities in Alaska have a sales tax. I mean, there's Wasilla and Palmer, some of them. So we are definitely.
And everyone is higher than 3%. Say about 13, Bethel 16, you know. Anyway, I just wanted to comment because I think that will help some folks who are so concerned about 3% being devastating. It's not great. And I'd much rather see income tax as something that's progressive, but you do what you can do.
Yeah, unfortunately, income taxes were about.
Yes, that's something I'm looking forward to our state discussion.
Lamps, right?
Would the property tax exemption apply equally to anyone and anything that owns property for the key, any kind of exemptions? And are it illegal to make exemptions for gigantic corporations as opposed to individuals? And then actually another question, I mean, you mentioned people, commuting from the valley. I did that myself for years. I wasn't really spending any money in Anchorage. I filled up my tank in Wasilla. I drove into Anchorage. I went to 8-9 hour day and then I drove home.
Right.
So sales tax, I don't think is really going to capture any of the money from those people that would otherwise go to maintaining the services that they avail themselves of 5 days a week. So what then is the solution there?
Yeah, so in reverse order, I guess it's not worse than property taxes in that order. And maybe they buy lunch, or maybe they buy your gas at Costco, or they stop by Costco, where they come into buy their. Yeah.
Cross my fingers for it.
Yeah, right. I mean, the answer is that Anchorage provides a lot of services for the state, and so we need fair state support from the state. I mean, that's what Rep. Galvin's fighting for us. Yeah. I think to your, I don't know if that's super satisfying answer, but the first question was
if there could be any exemptions for property tax relief to differentiate between residents and corporations, let's say.
Yeah, my understanding is that be constitutional, we can't, and we're allowed under state law that we discriminate against different types of persons. There's also some interesting evidence from like the Netherlands that treating corporate property tax owners increases racial segregation, which is really interesting because multifamily housing tends to get built by corporations rather than individuals. So if you tax corporations that are, you tend to discourage more affordable multifamily housing, which is sort of funny. I've general comparisons that there are also policies.
And I saw Celia and then me.
I will send the quick one. I have nothing against the sales tax, but I just want to know how much it costs to administer a tax and, staffing, your tracking, like.
It's a great question. Something I'm thinking a lot about. And the last sales tax proposal had a sunset in it, so it's going to go away after a couple of years, and the voters would need to reauthorize it. And that was something we're really not a fan of because of the costs that are sort of standing this up. And also the model that was based on was the Oklahoma City model, which got talked a lot about last time. Oklahoma City sort of famously did this extra 1% to pay for really wonderful shiny things like bringing the Oklahoma City Thunder to town. Stuff like that. But their extra 1% that gets sunset every couple of years is an addition to a baseline sales tax. So they don't have to rebuild an entire sales tax infrastructure if that 1% goes away. So yes, there is quite a lot of cost. It's also going to take a while to spin it up. So we'll need to get more businesses, helping them figure out how to administer it and pay it. So we probably wouldn't even start collecting the tax until 27 or 28, even if it passed in April.
Can I ask a follow-up? Yeah, because I remember there was something they were talking about just taxing in the summer, not the winter. they throw that idea away.
Well, I think that's also similarly, like, if you wanted to have a seasonal tax, we want easier to do it as an additional tax on top of an existing sales tax infrastructure. So I think that's why I want to start with the existing 3%, and if we want to add on a functionally a choice tax, then it would be something to add on top of that.
I'll vote for that too.
So I have two questions. Assembly members Baldwin and Raleigh put on our budget presentation a couple weeks ago. It was outstanding. Do you know if they're gonna do it again?
Oh, I already know that's not.
Okay, great. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
You know, you guys had a tech event or something.
We do, yeah.
If they have it again, I cannot recommend it enough. I also recommend that you go with someone who you love and adore, who is the opposite of you politically. Because the way they structured that conversation was really great. And then you stand up and you share out, and you can't be like, these guys are terrible because they're your parents. It was really fun. And along those lines, so one of the arguments that I hear against sales taxes is like, well, that's where it starts. Is like it starts at 3%, and then 2 years from now we're at 13, or even 20 years from now, we're at 13. So what say you to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the voters have to approve it. So it doesn't feel
Including
like
increases, I've actually never.
yeah, my understanding, someone who knows more than me could correct me, but my sense is that that's significant, like adding extra percentages of sales tax would require ballot, like another voter group thing, so I guess I'm.
Okay. Jen.
Here's a question.
You had your hand up, but you were muted. And I'm talking away from you, so time.
Oh,
If you
sorry, I
got a
didn't hear
question.
yeah, can you hear? I didn't hear my name. I just wanted to make a comment or two. I think I definitely agree
It's
with Matt.
actually hear you if you are talking time.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
it's not me.
Yeah, it says we can't hear you. Yes, I will type it.
And so back to Tawny. Was there another hand up? Or Jen, or were you telling me for you? Okay, Will.
Thanks for being here, Graham, and I appreciate the mayor's office, like, on this issue, I mean, as we're doing government, I think like addressing revenue is super important for municipality and for the state, and I think like something that like can maybe provide perspective. I'm curious about, I've heard the number, I don't remember it happening, but like what, so it's still a problem, like what our deferred maintenance, like that is right now, like has been over time, and just like quickly for that. The second comment, guys, it's not to be used for things like tax, are part of that we need to maintain.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways of thinking about the deferred maintenance number. One is, and to sort of address the question of is Westfield paying its fair share for the resources they're using in Anchorage, the state used to provide, not to put the spot, the state used to provide an average of about $100 million a year to the municipality, and going back to the the mid-80s, state support made up actually a third of this budget. Today, it's now less than 0.5%, so we got $3 million. Thanks in part to Brett Gal fighting really hard for that $3 million. And that's not the state is also seeing dramatic revenue drops, right? It's not like we're all in a really hard here. But if you think about we've lost $100 million a year for the last 10 years, that's $1 billion of backlog that we're looking to build. I think we said similarly, like we estimate deferred maintenance on our roads, it's about $1 billion. You add in storm drains, it's probably another $1 billion, and then you add in facilities, it's probably another $1 billion. So we're probably somewhere in that range of $3 billion of deferred maintenance. Our municipal budget every year is about $500-600 million, which is, even if we fire the whole police department, like we're not going to make up that backlog anytime soon. So I think even with the sales tax, we're going to have to have hard choices and hard conversations about what we do and don't.
You suggested the data quality was not finding out, that's no.
Oh, I will read it out loud. Okay, I agree with that. With regard to taxing people who are lower income classes to support lowering property taxes for property owners. I also understand the sentiment of homeowners that property taxes should not be the only way to fund the city. One of the concerns is that we are taxing these folks who very likely will never see benefit from the saving for landlords see if this passes. I know a lot of landlords have justified raising rent because of taxes.
Yeah, I think I hear the question. I don't think we can expect that reducing property taxes by, I think the 1% would reduce the average person's homeowner taxes by between 8 and 10%. I don't think that's necessarily going to lead to a reduction in trend. That's a good point. I think the hope is that, interestingly, sales tax. If we had the sales tax, right? If we were in a different world, we already had a 3% sales tax, and the question we were talking about should we repeal the 3% sales tax? I think we really good argument that repealing the sales tax would be progressive. Because who primarily pays the sales tax is rich people as in terms of absolute dollar income. And who receives the primary benefit from that revenue is low income folks, because that's generally the government serves everyone, provides an outsized benefits to low income people. So sort of depending on how you think about the sales tax, there's I think a good case to be made, unless all of it's going to property tax relief, in which case, yes, it's just regressive, that the 2/3 of it going to basic government services, public safety, maintenance, and affordable housing, childcare, that would sort of help to shift that balance from regressive to progressive.
Thank you, it's a school.
I have seen and read that some other states are having venture capitalists come in and they buy a lot of real estate in the same area. Do we have that problem here?
My kind of understanding is we don't yet have that problem, like Florida has been that. Yeah, it's also interesting, it's a shift that venture capital has for a long time been buying rentals, but it's only recently that they've started buying things that were previously owned ownership units.
So is there a way, I mean, it really keeps people from buying homes. So is there a way to, if we don't have that problem now, to keep it from happening?
I mean, I might be a little bit of a one track recording on this one, or maybe will back me up. I think the answer is supply, right? Like if you have a lot of houses, then you diminish landlord power to set rents. And if you have a lot of houses and 20% of them are Airbnbs, we've still got 80% strong. And you've got a lot of houses and private equity is buying 30% of them, we've still got 70% that aren't. So for me, a lot of the comes back to the abundance. The more we have, the better it goes off. It comes to happen.
But that's gonna take a minute, isn't it?
It sure is.
Okay, so Will, sorry,
Christine.
Will and Christine.
This is related to like one of the earlier questions about like exemptions. I remember that there like some sort of discussion during the public English time about, if for the property tax rebate, essentially, if it could be targeted towards like owner occupied property, not versus like person versus corporation, which might have its own issues. And even if possible, that it would potentially be state action. And so I just want to, especially with Calvin on the road, see if there could be a pathway there, or if there's any possibility.
Yeah, and the way that could work potentially is like the sales tax passes, and then late, this year, 2 or 3 years, the state empowers the municipality to tax owner occupied housing differently than non-owner occupied housing. Then we could come in with an exemption that would functionally undo that property tax relief for non-occupied housing.
We have some property taxes. So he's saying, could you just give that 1% to 3% to the owner occupied primary residence rather than I'm a landlord, but I mean, like just only, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like where to do that? We said we can't discriminate, but we already do.
Between the owner occupied and non-owner, we have the
Primary residential.
Exception, yeah.
Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, why is that? I feel a little triggered there. I feel like the reason why
Permanent is capped at the state level, how much that can be, and I think it's already probably like maxed out at the municipal level, I don't know if that, how that comes into like the rebate question, but. So it's permanent,
Yeah,
Maybe it's because it would benefit, like not benefit my tenant, right? It's only gonna benefit me and my primary residence. So we're trying to reach everybody, which like in hopes like maybe I would lower my rent if I was shop. You know what I mean? Maybe that's the key.
I've got Christine, and before I call on Matt, I wanna make sure that nobody had a question before Matt gets question number 2. Okay, then I got Matt after Christine.
So I know we're talking Tisdale next month, but it's a tax related question it's a Tisdale tax question, so. I was really unclear on the Tisdale stuff about the property tax. Freedom or whatever, the 20-year free no taxes for developers of eightplexes and up.
Yeah.
And it was presented at another community council meeting that would not decrease the tax roll at all, that you were getting a free ride on the building, but you'd still pay tax on the land. And my question is, if somebody bought my lot and I pay taxes on my $300,000 house and my little piece of property, and they scrape my house and put up an eightplex on it, now the city is gonna lose the revenue of the tax revenue on a $300,000 house. See what I mean?
yes,
Make up for.
Right, and so it was presented at this other community council meeting as, no, there's no ding to the tax roll, basically.
yeah,
And I don't think that's true. I mean,
I think in your case, you're right, there would be a ding to the, if that happened, I think. The way we designed the multifamily tax, which is current, so it's not dependent on the tax code, it already exists. So there is currently an incentive, if you build an eightplex anywhere in the municipality, you can get a minimum of 28 years tax abatement on the value of the new development. So in your case, you're right, if you destroy value in order to create an eightplex, then that would take something off the tax rolls. But when we were trying to calculate that, I think there's so much, like, for lack of a better word, like shit in Anchorage, that I don't think someone's going to come in and destroy a $300,000 house when they could go next door and knock down a vacant building. And so I think that the economics there are gonna help to prevent that type of situation from happening.
okay, I'm not totally relieved, but potentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so following 2 now. Matt,
How much land is tilted already in Anchorage? Because I mean, like, everybody knows the story of the Captain Cook doesn't pay property taxes for 100 years or whatever. But like, is there a lot of that? Is it all over the place, or is it just a one-off?
In terms of like, all like totally exempted.
Some part, not paying a fair share.
Within the Anchorage municipality,
Yes, ma'am.
there's not, my understanding is there's not a lot of vacant land. That's what you're asking about.
Okay.
Not a lot.
No, land's exempted from paying property.
If you go take it away, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know. That would be meeting numbers, I don't know, but I can understand, it makes sense to me that on balance, you wouldn't be losing. What you're gaining is housing, and you're not losing on balance. Your example is right, that in that case, sure, you're losing, but I think on balance, you're not going to be. If you consider what you're gaining, so I can see that stuff works out. And also, a lot of economists will look out beyond 20 years, so they'll say, well, yeah, on balance, it's gonna balance out real fine for the city, and so I can understand how the analysis would go that way.
There's also, I mean, also not to get too nerdy, but like in terms of a land value tax, which is a really interesting idea, actually, I'm going to tell you more about also many people in this room. To the degree folks are investing in neighborhoods, that's raising the social value of the neighborhood, which is captured in the land portion of the tax. So to the degree the incentive is encouraging reinvestment, we are hopefully actually raising the tax rolls. But I think, Matt, you're asking a slightly different question, which is like, there's a story about the cook, and I don't know if that's true, but maybe it is. when you think about exemptions in Anchorage, you got, disabled veterans, you got. For older Alaskans, you've got the homeowner exemption,
The nonprofit.
so nonprofit and religious exemptions are the big ones. I don't, there's not a lot of like one-off, we gave this one property owner an exemption anymore. Sometimes though, like if the muni still, like I think block 96 downtown is still owned by the municipality, or it's owned by ACDA, which is a municipality. We have a long-term lease with the developer. But they are still paying taxes on that. So I don't think there's gonna be a lot of instances like that happening, for example, it's long, it's not like a legacy tax. But you know, we could try to figure that out with the assessors. It is certainly the case, you know, the other exemptions do add up, for sure.
I'm checking the property taxes online and it looks like somebody for the cabin could pay something. There's like pluses and minuses.
But I think that
Yeah.
the piece that is missing from that conversation is that anytime you exempt one group, it pushes that burden on everyone else.
Yeah.
That's right. And you know, like the state last year was not for Gallup, but the Senate Conference did a really scary thing where they were thinking about increasing the senior tax exemption significantly, and who ends up paying? I mean, like, I think there's obviously good reasons to want to, you know, help our elders out, but yeah, right, who pays that? It's all
Not
about
at the expense of young families that they have this good.
right. Yeah, you squeeze the balloon on one side.
I'll say better next to you, because we're back on sales tax. Sales tax. Sales tax. Ish, taxes. Taxes.
You probably remember the scandal years ago about Anchorage Baptist had like 17 houses that they said that their ministers were living in. Is the city better about keeping track of these write-offs that they have, especially churches? We have like 200 and some registered churches in Anchorage that could be helping out the homeless, by the way. The Central Lutheran does, but do they keep track of these write-offs? Are they better about that than they used to be?
Yeah, well, I can't speak too much. Like, I'm a big fan of our current assessor, Jack Anderson. He's really on top of it and real savvy. And Jack and the I team, which is another really exciting part of the municipality, run right about the innovation team, did a really cool thing recently where they used existing public data to sort of assess whether folks were either getting exemptions they shouldn't get anymore, or whether they might qualify for an exemption that they should get. We're able to do a little bit more of an automated, digitized version of double checking these events. Whereas before there was like a giant room full of paper boxes that they were having to go through every single year. It is specifically in the religious exemption that housing for ministers is covered under the religious exemption.
Do they have a certain amount of ministers that they can have?
I don't know the answer to this.
Yeah. Okay, last question for Bob, then I want to clear up a process, but we are at 8:45.
So what's the best case scenario for how much money net the city would bring in if it's passed?
If the sales tax passes. Yeah, so estimates are probably close to 180 million, so about 60%, 60 million per percent of sales tax. And that comes down. The exemptions bring that down a little bit, but some new estimates brought it up a little bit, so I think 150 to 180 is from the list.
That's good.
So what's our current budget?
About 600.
Yeah. You're comfortable.
Great.
Yes.
So we need to head out, but I can't talk about it, so I don't know, what's the update? Can you, it's
The teaser. Yeah.
Yeah, what is it supposed to be?
Yeah, it's for the 7 coming out, is it gone forever, is it good?
It's not confirmed. And I don't tend to be hesitant to release a version 7 soon, just was one of the reasons that it's been too much change. So I would expect I'm gonna talk tomorrow with the consultants, we can figure out hire to have some community conversations about how we get to 10,000 homes. And is this the right strategy to get there? And that will probably happen over the next couple months. I don't anticipate. Yeah, it's not gonna happen fast, and we want to be really deliberate in this conversation, so transparent.
So we should be looking out for community conversations about it.
Yes. Yeah.
How will we be seeing that?
Well, surely I will be sharing it with the community council president, so.
It is in pen and in stone for December.
Oh,
And
and
that is
I'll be
the
back
presentation.
here, yes, I'll be back here in December to talk about it.
So we don't even have like a preliminary deadline for public comment on this stuff.
No, I wish I could be more, because I think folks are feeling pretty anxious, whether you're supportive or opposed, and so. And we'd like to get more from data, but need to work out with council to kind of the assembly sponsors what they want.
We fairly confidently say it's sometime after December 15th.
Oh, very much, so.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the question is like 3 months and 6 months, is that?
Oh, those are timeframes, they're like 3 months, 6 months. Big ballpark, okay. That process on taxes, what happens next for the sales tax? What should we expect to, what should we look out for? What can we expect next?
Yeah, well, I hope by the end of the week to have views, a budget one pager and the sales tax one pager that you can circulate with this group that has in writing a lot of what we talked about here. And then November 18th is the next assembly meeting, and so I think that aim is to have it introduced, the mayor's proposal to be introduced then.
And then, is that a ballot? Oh,
Yes, and then the assembly would need to approve it before January, or in January for it to go on the ballot in April for you all to find.
excellent, thank you. Does anybody have any final questions before we go to our second round of community announcements for anybody who might have thought of any committee to be announced?
Technically, it's not black, it's fine, it's next month, I'm not sure what I'm doing. Duke Russell will have another event at the name, community dinner, but it's December 14th, it's a Sunday. It should be, I think, 2 to 7 p.m. So, yeah, if it was the last one, was a nice one, that's gonna be his last, I guess he's or doing more, I'm gonna go do more. So, yeah.
December 14th, great.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been following it on, I haven't been, but it looks really cool.
Oh, it's nice. It's community event, like right, people don't know, it's fresh.
At the moment, community announcement to thank all of our people here in Spenard with Alex. We have 100 formerly unhoused people that are in a program to find some solutions. Out of 100 people last month, I'm accountable for all those people and how they interact with Spenard. My business card is on the table if the community has any feedback or has any needs. I want to report that 20 individuals were housed last month alone. So, we're not going to take that done.
On that note, if you guys have a win for spending over the next 30 days, basically before our next meeting, that you think should go on our list of Spenard wins. It's been, I don't know about the rest of you, but like a horrible 5 years, and I really want to celebrate even those tiniest of wins. Like
Palm tree is one.
the palm tree with inspired, like that was their first, like win.
Honestly, it's
So it made my heart just happy.
That's what Barbie's been. Being offered.
So anything you want to make sure, like something happens tomorrow, and you're like, that's a Spenard win, that needs to go on our list of Spenard wins, please email me at spenardcc@gmail.com, and we'll make sure it goes on our list of Spenard wins, so we don't forget that some days are good. Yes.
Okay. So some follow-up to that, just
Yes.
figuring out should be invited to these towns to present. Given the recent closure of Boys and Girls Clubs, so across the state of life funding, I think that maybe having their CEO, Susan Anderson, will kind of talk about that. As well as the broader topic of childcare, having Stephanie through last night, the CEO of Red, come in and talk about those topics. Would be good to.
Okay, yeah, thank you. It's being recorded, so I'm gonna get those names in writing tonight. Are there any other community announcements?
I was in theater as well. I was in a recent training and we're fifth room. I was there. And they said, if you know anyone who needs a treatment, they have no wait list right now. And coincidentally, there's no billing department yet. Like they said, if you send someone to us, they will wait and the service will be free because there's no billing department right now. So if you know a loved one who needs treatment, then we're past no wait list and it would coincidentally be free.
Good to hear, thank you. Is there a contact? Like, is it walking?
I've never been twice in that training. So that was good news here. I wish my ex would take it back. Yeah.
For a bit, it's sure.
Yeah, okay. Excellent, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. If there are no more announcements or no more questions, does anybody wanna
Second.
move to adjourn by? Seconded by second?
You technically don't need to follow Robert's rules because we have concluded all the business items.
You, thank you, let's go too.
Well,
We have a fabulous evening, everybody.
like.